What's up, guys? Jeff here. Brand new day, new video. So first things first, we got the Frag system running. We talked about that in yesterday's video. We had water in there. We did have one leak, and we fixed the leak. We let it set overnight, so all that glue hardened right up real good. And then when I came in first thing this morning, we turned it on. We do have the max spec jump turned down quite a bit. This is the 12K. No, this is the 10K. Am I putting the 12K? Oh boy. All right, didn't realize I did that. So this is the 10K jump return pump, that little orange thing right there. That is what's pushing the water into the Frag system, and that is what is making the whole water deal move. And then we got these drains over here. That's a 1-inch pipe. Then we got an 1.5 inch pipe. That's our emergency drain right here. So if that pipe were to become clogged, because you can see it's barely keeping its head above water right now. If that were to become clogged, and let's say that system's just running fine on the other side, there's not a lot of water in there, but potentially, the water could continue to rise in here, and that's where that guy comes into play. So that water will rush down there and then get to that sump in a hurry, and hopefully, I recognize that something's going on, and then I can come over here and fix it. So we got that going. That is watertight, and we need to start the cycling process on that guy here pretty soon, because we're getting to that point where the June 1st hope to be open date is coming right around the corner. Again, probably going to miss it. I'm assuming that it's going to take about 2 additional weeks, not necessarily to set up. I think that I'm going to be ready to go June 1st. The issue is going to be with the livestock and making sure that these tanks can support life, and do it in a way that I'm not just peddling a bunch of busted up corals or busted up fish, because that's definitely not going to help things out very much at all. So the hope is to be open June 1st. I don't really think it's going to happen. I'm thinking June 14th or 15th is probably going to be more like our open date, because I just want things to get in here, settle down. I'm probably going to do a very small coral order to start this off, maybe even get some fish in there to get the whole thing going. And just kind of let it settle down a little bit before we open. Same deal with these guys. I want to get them set up and running, which I'm starting to pull the water for that, which we'll get into that guy here in a second. But the fish holding systems, I'm probably going to do a very small order, and make sure that all the life in here is going to go. But we got some steps to, kind of get through before we get to this point, because these, need water. We don't have any pumps for it. We're hoping that pumps come in tomorrow for that. I got to find bulkheads for that because there's some weird stuff going on in the back there. So we need to get the pumps in there. We need to make sure that they're watertight. If they're watertight, we're going to drain the water out of this guy right here, push them up against that guy, and then we're going to run it. And we'll get the bacterias in there. We'll probably get some Brightwell aquatic bricks in there to help with the diversities, the biodiversities. That's not accurate at all. And then this huge pile of boxes right here there's some freshwater rock in here, but there's also a bunch of saltwater rock, and we'll probably put a couple pieces in here to make the fish feel a little bit at home. So my whole little stockpile of rock that I got going on is probably going to look pretty neat pretty quick, but the vendor seems to have a good amount of it, so we'll get that going. Working on this guy today. We got some touch-ups to do. I didn't really put a whole lot of eyes on this guy, but once I did, realized that it was pretty jacked up. So we busted the putty out, and we're going to button that up a little bit here, get that looking a little bit nice, a little bit smoother. It was really jagged, which we'll take the sander to that and take care of that. But there's a lot more jaggedness going on here than I'd like to see. So we're going to fix that all up. We did get the uprights installed. This one is getting 2 4x4s in the middle. Reason being is this is going to be the seated live rock tank. This is going to hold a bunch of live rock, and I think I'm leaning towards right now connecting both systems together. Even though that was something I wasn't thinking about doing, but I kept on going back and forth. But I think it's going to be better if I have the whole thing connected up and we're running them together. So there'll be some benefits for the coral in there, as well as the live rock and the whole thing working together. But we got our platform for the Sump built. This one's done a little bit differently because I didn't build it. Buddy Paulie came over and did some stuff, and there's some things I like about what he did here that I kind of wish I would have thought of myself. I think I would have liked to have just built this box, nail it in there, and maybe just left it, maybe put some uprights in there to support the tank a little bit more. The tank meaning this guy up top. But I kind of like the idea of, you know, the platform just being there, because what I did is I had 2x4 running all the way across, and then I boxed out my little sump section, so I had 2x4 on both sides here. One, it was more wood to paint. Two, it kind of takes away from the idea of being able to just push something up under there. So I think what I'll end up doing is any rock that's stockpiled, I will push up in there and kind of leave it be. I am going to try to find some shower curtain tension rods to be able to just have a little bit of a curtain there and cover that up, make it look a little bit more buttoned up. And the reason being, you know, just make it look a little bit nicer. Black curtains. If I can find a tension cord or a tension rod that's long enough for that right there. And then my sump. Now this sump is going to be the 220-gallon sump, which some of you guys that have been around long enough know that that is the ode to my sump. That is one of my least favorite expenses that I've ever done in this hobby, because I think it was somewhere in the ballpark of like $450 for a custom rimless sump. Don't ask me why, but it's not one of my most favorite things, but it's going to be here in the sump. It'll be something to talk about with folks when they kind of want to check stuff out. And that's kind of the second idea behind the curtain, is I can just pull it back, and, you know, if somebody wants to see what the system looks like, we can take a look at it and talk about some of the equipment that's in there. Again, a lot of what you do in a Frag holding system isn't exactly the same as what you would do with your home system, but it's a good way to kind of show, you know, the type of equipment that you're doing and all that stuff. But so that's what we're going to button up today. We got this guy going. Want to get water in there here pretty soon, and then we are running water in the newly re-plumbed storage system. Now, I talked about this, and it's leaking, and this was definitely a source of pain for me for a couple days. It was like we're just under that 40-liter mark, which is pretty high up on this bulkhead. I had a drip, and the drip was between this connection right here and the bulkhead, and you can see how it's all chewed up right there. That's not how it's made, folks. That's anger. That's very angry Jeff ripping at that guy. The seam that I had there was fine. The connection that I had to the gate valve was fine as well, and also in here was fine. But had a very slow leak. Noticed it at about this level when I originally plumbed this, and it was dripping right here at the bulkhead, and it was very slow. So I was like, yeah, it ain't a big deal. But as the tank became more and more filled with water, the pressure increased as well as the leak increased. So it was something that I knew that I needed to deal with. I was going to be emptying out this tank, or close to emptying out this tank completely with filling up at least the frag system or the fish holding system. I knew that was going to happen, and that's actually exactly what happened. That whole system took about 200 gallons of RO water to fill. So we're going to be working on this guy this week, so need to make another 200 gallons, as well as those two systems, which I think are going to be close to 200 gallons of pop as well. So we've got to make a lot of salt water. But with that, drain that out. I'm going to tell you what, this guy right here drains so fast, like unreal. I think I legitimately was filling a 5-gallon bucket in probably 3 seconds, and it was to the point where I'm like turning it and I'm opening it up and I'm trying to hold on to the bucket, and then all of a sudden the bucket's almost overfilling and I'm trying to close up the valve, and it was crazy. But we seem like we may have addressed our problem, and I had bought, I talked about this on the Sunday video, I had bought this seal thread and gasket. That was going to be the third try with that. But what I ended up doing here is I had a little bit better of a quality plumber's tape, which I'll show you to you guys here in a second, and I didn't tighten down as much. That was my problem. I literally, if you look at this, that's all teeth mark right there, which I ended up needing to buy a special tool to be able to take that off, because oh boy did I go Hulk mode on that. It was in there. What I ended up getting was this guy right here. So I've seen this on a few plumbing videos, and it took me a couple of minutes to figure out exactly how to use it. But that is a very, very awesome tool to have, especially when you're dealing with threaded connections, larger threaded connections. I think you're all set to, use a wrench on the smaller deals, but anything over 1.5 inches, I strongly recommend this guy. But the tape that I ended up using, lights are kind of not great, is this fast tape. It has a red label on the top. It's made by the same company that makes the regular stuff, but it's like a gray instead of the white, and it's a little bit thicker of a millimeter or a mil when you wrap it, and that's what I used on these threaded seams here, because I went back and forth on this. Was all I could find was threaded. Then I eventually found the slip and decided to use the threaded anyways, because I was kind of going for this like over the tank deal, and I used that tape and was flawless in the connection. So figured I'd give this stuff a try out on the gate valve. Seems to be working so far. Obviously we're just in the beginning phases of filling that tank up, so things could still go wrong. But if that works, we're going to go ahead and plumb up that second tank, and we'll be good to go. Alright guys, so I'm going to get to it here. I'm going to do some sanding and working on this. I'm going to paint a little bit, not the most interesting stuff, but that's going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. I will see you guys tomorrow.